And welcome to the second episode of Goats and Rings. I am your host, Walt Stringer. Uh, well, you already know what I am. I'm not going to say that every damn episode. So I'm going to bring in another very astute, very hardworking, very talented colleague of mine from the East West Football Network, Isaac Durham. How you doing?
I'm good. I definitely didn't deserve all the kind words, but I'm feeling good. A little bit better now that you kind of lied to the audience a little bit.
Oh no, Isaac, you the truth. You definitely the truth, man. I don't pull no punches. You work your ass off, and we really
Well,
appreciate it, man.
I appreciate it.
So let's jump into some things right quick.
Okay.
So as we already know, the 2021 Hall of Fame class is in the books. Some pretty
hmm
big names got in. Some guys who had to wait their turn got in. Always guys get pushed to the back. So we're gonna fast forward things to 2022. Who do you think is going to get in off of that list? Because if we look at the list of guys who are potential guys to go in, you're looking at
Yeah, just
Steve
list it off.
Smith.
Go over.
Right. Yeah, you got Steve Smith, you got Torrey Holt, you got Rondé Barber, Zach
hmm
Thomas, Tony Baselli, Devin Hester, one of your favorites, one of my favorites. You got Jared Allen, the all-time defensive end from the Minnesota Vikings and Kansas City Chiefs, Sam Mills, and one of my favorite players ever, Leroy Butler. So, not to mention, you got guys like Andre Johnson also who will be up. So, in your estimation, we don't really have a clear cut alpha guy like a Peyton Manning or
hmm
Calvin Johnson from this previous year, Charles Woodson. There's a lot of guys who have been pushed to the back, not because they really were undeserving, but mainly for the simple fact there were some awesome guys ahead of them. So, in your estimation, who are some guys that you feel should be locks for 2022?
Let me ask you a question real quick.
Shoot.
What do you think of DeMarcus Ware?
Hall of Fame player.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right away.
Hey,
Because because
for me, I feel kind of like Skip Bayless when it comes to this. If I have to think about it, then there's some question to it.
okay,
DeMarcus was 1A edge rushers for a good 6, 7, 8 seasons.
yeah. And the reason why I brought that up is because when I think of the defensive side of the ball, he's like the first name that I go to when I think of Hall of Fame. And then you kind of look around at what everyone else thinks, and he's very low on everyone's list. So I was wondering, like, is there something I'm missing? Because this is a guy you were talking about, a 9-year stretch where he had 117 sacks, 138 and a half in his career throughout 12 years. So I don't know how he's not higher on the boards, and some of the professionals that are on TV that are talking about the Hall of Fame 2022 class. I don't know how you don't bring up DeMarcus Ware, almost right away. That's just kind of how I feel, and that's why I asked you the question.
Well, this would be his first time on the ballot. Am I correct?
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel between him and Steve Smith and guys like Andre Johnson, I feel Ware was more deserving of those guys. I
Yeah.
think he was better at his position, and that's no slight to Steve Smith.
Yeah.
Steve was awesome,
hmm
awesome player. Andre Johnson, awesome player, retired early. But DeMarcus Ware was, I believe, 1A for a good 7, 8 years.
Yeah. And you talked about it. If you have to think about it, maybe he's not in. And like I said, that's the first pick that came to mind. And when I think of Dallas Cowboys defenders, edge rushers in their history, he's the guy that I think of. And I even think of him as a Bronco, in the 3 years that he was there. He had
Absolutely.
21 and a half sacks in 3 years, which is still, nothing to really, look past. And when I think of great edge rushers just in the history of the game, he's on the list that, top, if we had to put a top 20 of all time, I would have him in there, and maybe even higher than that. So to me, this is his first time eligible to be a Hall of Famer, and I think he's a locked in guy for me.
You put him in ahead of Richard Seymour.
There's so many great players. I'm gonna go with my heart, and you know, okay, you said we were going to talk about this on your show, and I could name 18 players that I would throw in there. They're not all going to go in there.
True.
Richard Seymour, yeah, I mean, he's deserving of it. A lot of guys are deserving of it, and a lot of guys get skipped over every year. Who's that? I think you brought him up. The tackle. Was it
Tony
Bissell?
Baselli.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
Tony
mean, he's been
Baselli.
passed over a couple times now, right?
Well, I think with good reason, given the fact that Tony was an awesome left tackle.
Hmm.
I think for a while it was him and Jordan Gross. Those guys were kind of like 1A. But I think they tend to penalize you when you leave early.
Yeah.
And it wasn't his fault. I think Tony's body just couldn't hold up, but Tony was awesome. But you know, you got to look at the line, the ring of not ring, but the run of tackles that got backed up that had to get in over the past few years. Guys like was it Steve Hutchinson, and there's a lot of guys who had to get in, who deserve to get in. So
Mm.
it's not really a slight. And to segue into that, I'm going to go to a guy that I felt probably should have been in a long time ago, and that's Leroy Butler. It's kind of sacrilegious for me to say that, given the fact that he was a Green Bay Packer.
Yeah. Ugh.
You know exactly, but for those people who are too young to actually know who Leroy Butler was, he was Ed Reed before Ed Reed, pretty much. You know, the guy played 11 years. He was first team all 90s, the first team decade all 90, first team all decade of the 90s. You look at it, he was four-time first team all pro. He had 38, 13, and 10, which was 38 interceptions, 13 forced fumbles, and 10 fumbles recovered in his career. And all of that goes along with him having a career where he averaged 108 tackles over 11 seasons. So Leroy Butler was awesome. But you got to also look at the fact that, hey, Ed Reed had to get in, Troy Polamalu had to get in, John Lynch had to get in, and we can make the argument in the 90s whether John Lynch or Leroy Butler was actually the more productive safety. Who knows?
Hmm.
But no, Lynch is a guy I think he's due. You know, he set back. He watched the other more high profile safeties go in ahead of him, but I think this year is his year.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna say anything to disregard everything you just said. Butler deserves to be in. Um, I'm one of those young guys that you're talking about that didn't see a ton of him, but as a Bears fan, I know the Packers' history. I was born in 1997. I can remember early 2000s. I can't remember 2001 when he
Right.
last played, but I know that, I mean, you just look at his numbers. You just went through them. I mean, I don't have to go over them again. They're consistent. They showcase, dominant strong safety numbers.
Yeah. I mean, you had 38 interceptions from a safety who was a predominantly box safety.
Yeah, that's like
You know, it's
Jamal Adams finishing with
on
38 career
yeah
interceptions.
on steroids.
Yeah, well, yeah,
so
true.
so, but another guy I did have in mind also was Torrey Holt, and Holt has to get in. I think that 2003 season he had alone, to me, was like one of the most dominant seasons I ever could remember from a wide receiver. He had 117 catches on 183 targets for 12 touchdowns. And he fell 4 yards short, I believe, of 1,700 that year. So guys like Torrey Holt, Isaac Bruce, they made Bruce wait forever. I
Hmm.
don't think they'll make Holt wait that long. I think a lot of these guys have more recent memories, and so I do think Holt will go ahead and get the nod this season coming up. But also, it's just the dominance of what Torrey Holt was able to do. I think he had
Hmm.
what 9 straight seasons, 7 straight seasons of at least 1,200 or 1,100 yards, and
Ridiculous.
yeah, even his 2000 season. You look at his 2000 season, he had 1,635 yards on just 82 damn catches.
Hmm. Yeah,
So
that's
yeah,
impressive. And you see nowadays, guys put up similar numbers in a couple season span, but you just said 6-7 year span. We don't see a lot of guys that do that, and that's why he's
not
deserving to
anymore.
be a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
And then, so I'm going to go over to my other guy. You mentioned him earlier. I am a Bears fan. Even if I was a Lions fan like you, I would still believe that Devin Hester should be in, just because of the fact that he kind of changed the game at his position. We didn't see players like him that, anytime that he had the ball on a kickoff return or punt return, I mean, you're standing up. I mean, me at least, as a Bears fan, I'm expecting him to have a great return. And it's crazy to see a guy that, comes into the league, returns 5 touchdowns in one season, breaks the record. The next year breaks his own record, returning 6 more. He has the all-time record in punt return touchdowns and total return touchdowns. And, he wasn't just that though. He came into the league as a corner, and after playing his days at Miami, and he was a weapon for the Bears on offense too. Even when he was slated as a cornerback, they would throw him in there. They just say, "Hey, running out." And whoever it was, Rex Grossman, whatever crappy quarterback we had at the time, he just throw it as far as he can and he would go get it. He had some drop issues, but the fact that, he had such blazing speed, and he looked faster than he was on the field, and just making, guys miss on a regular basis, just making it look like a video game. I haven't seen a player like him, before him, and I haven't seen anyone like him since, as far as return skills go. So he's got to be in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree 100%. You had guys like Dante Hall from Kansas City, who was pretty dynamic. Guys like Mel Gray, who actually played here in Detroit for a very long time. But Devin Hester was different. I
Mm-hmm.
think for a good 4 or 5 years, Devin was probably the most dangerous man in football.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he was different in the sense that he could win you guys games. Like, going
He
back to
did.
his going back to his heyday, it's like I would watch these games where that dominant Bears defense would keep it to a 16-13 game, and then boom, Hester, he'll take a punt back, he'll take a kickoff back. Hell, he might take 2 of them back.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
And
he
he did it a couple times where he would return 2 in
yes,
one game.
yeah.
And
Devin was an icon.
and it's just crazy to look back at that 05, 06 season where we had Rex Grossman, who threw over 25 picks in one season. The offense was atrocious. You mentioned it. The Bears defense was great, but Hester brought, another element to the team that, without him, they probably wouldn't even have been a playoff team. I mean, let's be real,
True.
because the offense couldn't march down the field. Whether he scored himself or he went, around midfield, he set us up greatly. Great success that season, and he deserves a lot of credit.
Yeah, Devin was must-see TV. Him and Deion Sanders were 2 guys that,
Mm-hmm.
there was no going to the kitchen or going to the bathroom when it was time to punt that ball when those guys were on the field. So,
No.
yeah, I agree 100%. Devin should be in. I don't know if there's some sort of bias the Hall of Fame has against kick returners. I don't know if they really consider them real football players. It's idiotic not to,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, Devin should definitely be in my opinion.
Yeah.
So, one more person, Isaac, one more person.
Mm. Yeah, I do like Steve Smith, but I really, really, really like Rondé Barber, and I don't have the stats in front of me. But he's another guy, sometimes you can get bored watching the defense side of the ball. Us, we like watching all aspects of the game. But he was just different too. You talk about a guy that could do it all on the defensive side of the ball. He can line up at linebacker. He could, play free safety, play strong safety. He had a knack at creating turnovers, punching fumbles out. I remember a game, the Bears played the Buccaneers in London, and, we should have blew them out because the Buccaneers didn't have a great offense. But Rondé Barber, I think, forced 2 fumbles to Matt Forte in that game and had a pick. It was just like, it's just crazy what he could do. And he was, pretty much the best player on that team for quite a while on the defensive side of the ball. Like I said, I don't have the stats in front of me, but I'm sure if I pulled them up, they would just wow you. But as far as memory goes, Rondé Barber is one guy that I truly remember being dominant week in, week out, year in, year out.
Yeah, going back to when Tampa actually took him, I thought he was a pretty solid player in college. He played right along with his brother Tiki. I don't want to call him a system corner because he was too great of a player, but he was sort of like the perfect cover 2 corner. But when you looked at him, he didn't really fit that build. He wasn't 6', 6'1", 190, 200 plus. But he'll come up, he'll hit you in run support. He can play man downfield. He can play man underneath. He can shadow guys. he was just one hell of a football player, and he was a playmaker. And I also believe Rondé should be in. He was one of those guys that when I actually went through the list, I said to myself, okay, you know what, Rondé Barber, yes. Like Rondé just had that feel to him
Hmm.
more than some of the other guys. So yeah, Rondé's definitely a guy I agree with.
And then I have his stats in front of me now. I mean, he finished his career with 47 interceptions.
Yeah,
He he, he had 15 forced fumbles, 12 fumble recoveries, and among those 47 interceptions, he returned 8 of them for a touchdown. So I mean, he's just a dynamic playmaker on the defensive side of the ball.
hell of a player, very very smart. Yep. All right, so moving on. Let's talk some NFC North.
All right.
Now, I'm from Detroit. You're from Chicago. We're not supposed to like each
Nope.
other. Nah. So
Especially in football season.
especially in football season. But all right, so let's jump into these Vikings. I may end up going back on my prediction
Okay.
I had from a couple months ago, saying that I thought the Vikings would win the NFC North. I feel like a complete idiot right now for believing in Kirk Cousins and believing in Mike Zimmer. It seems to me that those two guys don't care for each other. It seems to me Mike Zimmer doesn't like the media. It seems to me Mike Zimmer doesn't like to sit down for media addresses too long.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to me the Vikings have had a lot of bad luck this offseason with players off the field. And Christian Darsaw, like if this is a real bad sign for him, a guy who was already hurt in college at Virginia Tech, and now he's going through this now. So, Isaac, what do you think about those Vikings?
Well, I feel better about the Vikings than I do the Detroit Lions. How about that?
Oh, okay.
But on top of that, I also feel better about the Vikings than the Chicago Bears. And here's the thing. Zimmer has never had a defense play like that. That last year they were horrible. I mean, consistently allowed 30 plus points a game. That offense was pretty stellar at times, but you wouldn't have known it if you didn't watch the games just by looking at their record. The defense, I mean, they're going to be much improved this season. They brought in some good free agents, guys that were hurt last year, like Daniil Hunter. Was it Michael Pierce on that D line? He was hurt last year for a little bit. Guys that are coming back. And they added some good secondary pieces, in my opinion. I thought the Brashad Breeland addition later in the offseason was a key one. Maybe they don't have the best secondary, in the league, but that defense is going to improve. But you're right. There's something going on in Minnesota within their organization. There's talks that they wanted to draft Justin Fields before the Bears did, and then they went ahead and drafted Kellen Mond. So what does that tell you? Kirk isn't the long-term guy. I don't know what's going on. I haven't necessarily thought. I thought Kirk had a pretty good season last year, considering what he was playing with. He was always playing from behind. He's not a guy that you can rely on to win games, but I thought he took a step up, and that's not what they need from him. Dalvin Cook is that offense. He's Cousins has good receivers surrounding him. Rudolph's gone now, but a lot of people like Big Irv Smith Jr. At that tight end spot. I don't really know if I like him yet, but I like what Dalvin Cook brings. I like the rushing attack. I like that Cousins can, he can produce when he needs to, and I think that defense will be a little bit more improved. I'm not saying they're going to be a hell of a lot better than the Bears, but I think they slightly will be.
Yeah, well, I think when you look at that secondary, Harrison Smith is still a year older.
Mm-hmm.
Great player. Wanted the Lions to take him. Another guy they didn't take.
Mm-hmm.
You look at an aging Patrick Peterson. You look at the fact they brought Mackenzie Alexander over in free agency, of course, from Minnesota. I think he's a solid player. Anthony Barty managed to bring him back. Hendricks. They're still like kind of sort of just keeping the band together. That's why I'm kind of still.
And they brought back Everson Griffin too, so that goes hand in hand what you just said.
Yeah, but I think offensively, the writing's on the wall. They're moving away from Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
I just got this one question: is Kellen Mond vaccinated?
Oh my gosh.
We know one guy that isn't.
Right. Man.
So yeah,
It, I don't know. I don't know what to believe. I mean, you're the scout here. Do you think Kellen Mond has what it takes to be a starting quarterback in this league
for them, yes.
for them?
Yeah, I think
As
he was kind of playing in that system at Texas A&M. I'm kind of iffy on how well I'm kind of walking on eggshells with how I touch quarterbacks that come from that system.
mhm.
But the raw talent was there. The
Yeah.
size is there, the mobility obviously there, the ability to throw on the run. He's got a more powerful arm than Cousins. I think he's the guy that could make this offense go.
So what you're saying is he's pretty much everything that Kirk Cousins isn't.
Everything Kirk Cousins is.
Yeah. So that's
Everything
that's
Kirk.
what that's what's weird when you see them draft him. It's just like it really looks like they're going to move on from Kirk Cousins soon.
Yeah, it really does. They're so Dalvin Cook dependent right now, and Justin Jefferson being nicked up, and you don't really know how much more you're going to get out of Adam Thielen.
Mm-hmm.
But I do like the fact that they got Ezra Cleveland, the guard,
Oh
out
yeah.
of Boise State, Garrett Bradley, the center. So they're solid at some spots. I think they're really hitching their wagon to Christian Darrisaw.
Yeah.
Like that kid has all the talent in the world, and if he can put it all together, if he can be healthy for that Vikings team, they could have really gotten the steal. But
That's who I wanted Chicago to draft because in no world did I think that Nagy and Pace were going to trade up to get a quarterback. I thought they
right.
were going to keep their pick, and I thought they were going to go offensive line, and that's who I wanted them to pick overall. But I'm happy with Fields. That's cool. That's cool.
Oh yeah, you should be happy with a quarterback. Always, always. But moving on. Yeah, that other team, that team that's downtown for me. So the Detroit Lions. I'm gonna let you jump into this first. Let me know how you feel about these Lions, and I'm gonna tell you you're completely right.
I think they're going to win the Super Bowl
It's a damn lie.
in 20 plus years. All right, so I don't know. I don't know what to think about this team besides I don't see a lot of talent all the way around the whole roster.
Gotcha.
I like Swift. I think he's a good young running back. I like the addition of Jamal Williams so that you don't have to put so much pressure on your young running back. Williams is a pretty good pass catcher out of the backfield. So I like your running backs right now. I mean, Jared Goff a couple years ago, he had great success. I don't know what he's going to do in Detroit. I didn't mind the trade for you guys. I just didn't really understand it on your end. I know you wanted Stafford out of there, but I mean, you got some picks, so that's good.
Yeah.
But
Gotta
man,
eat a little money.
that wide receiver room is something
Ugly.
else. It is something else. I mean, Tyrell Williams, he had one good season with the Chargers a couple years ago. Perriman has been a guy that's never lived up to the hype.
Right.
Amon-Ra St. Brown wasn't, I mean, did you have him on your radar at all going? I mean, you're the scout here.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
but what'd you have on I mean, I know you guys didn't draft him super high, but
I wasn't as high on him as a lot of other guys
Mhm.
from the network. I had a mid second to late second round grade on him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought he was a hell of a player at USC, but
Yeah.
still kind of iffy on those USC receivers. But I mean, you're 1,000% correct about that receiving core. But go on.
But I mean, with the opportunity at hand, though, I mean, he has a really good shot to really shine right away. Not saying that he has all the talent in the world, but when you look at, the other receivers on that team, I didn't even mention Quintez Cephas, too, a guy that, got involved a little bit last year. He has a great opportunity, St. Brown does, at really, I mean, he has a chance to be your team's wide receiver one. And then you have a really good young tight end in TJ Hawkinson, who I think is just going to be a target monster this season if he can stay healthy. The offensive line, I don't know. I don't really. I love the Sewell pick. Were you mad about that at all? Did you? did you want someone else, or was that the right pick for your team?
Well, I said prior to the draft that Sewell was the pick. He was the guy I wanted, but that was
Hmm.
because I didn't really believe the 49ers or the Falcons, for that matter, would allow Justin Fields to fall that far. You know,
Yeah.
I said it before, man. If you don't have a quarterback, especially as a first-time GM, normally first-time GMs when they walk into a situation like that, first-time GMs, first-time head coaches, they immediately hitch their wagon to a young quarterback. That young quarterback gives you opportunity. He buys you time. And I just felt that given the talent that was on the board, if Sewell turns out to be a great left tackle, but Justin Fields turns out to be a great quarterback, it was a bad pick. Point blank, it was a bad pick because the quarterback is always the better player. I don't give a damn who it is at left tackle. Great quarterback, great left tackle. I'm gonna always go with the great quarterback every time. So, yeah, it was bittersweet for me when they passed on Fields. It was bittersweet.
Hey, I'm happy to take him. I'm happy to take him.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And then, I mean, like when you look at that defensive side of the ball, who is someone? Sorry about that.
We don't care. I got dogs.
Um, Here, let me go back to this. So last year, you guys drafted Okuda. What do you think of him so far?
Uh, it's getting kind of scary. You know, the thing is this: everything was put out there that the previous regime drafted him pretty much to save their jobs. You know, you had the opportunity over the past two drafts to have Justin Herbert, Justin Fields, Tua, and you ended up with a left tackle and a corner, number 3 overall. So you're in a situation now where Akuda's getting killed. Like teams are, it's bad when things get to a point where opposing defenses, opposing coordinators are targeting you in preseason. You know, I think
Mm-hmm.
he's lost a lot of his confidence. They
Yeah.
benched him a lot last year. They put him in situations where he wants to get up to the line of scrimmage, put his hands on you. He wants to be a real cover corner, and you got him playing this semi half zone, half man, half pass off, half what the hell are you doing? Why'd you let him run past you? Well, I didn't
Mm-hmm.
know my damn assignment. So they brought in Aaron Glenn. Aaron Glenn is a close friend of his. He's known Aaron Glenn since Ohio State. He's worked out with Aaron Glenn, knows a lot about him. Aaron Glenn was supposed to be this cornerback whisperer. Now, the jury's still out, but Jeff is looking bad right now.
Yeah.
He's looking bad. And the cornerback room as a whole, I think a guy like Ifeatu Melifonwu may turn out to be their cornerback one sooner than
Wow.
later.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, you have some guys on there that when I look at the depth chart, I go, oh, okay, like Trey Flowers, even though you guys put him on the outside, Jamie Collins. I mean, these are guys that could turn out, but you guys aren't in win now mode, so that's why I'm kind of confused on some of the players that are on this team.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of building. It's a lot
Yeah.
of building. They going back to last season. First of all, that defense was historically bad.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have a defense that's either dead last or bottom 4 in the NFL in every single defensive category, usually that means you suck at the line of scrimmage. And we sucked at the line of scrimmage.
Mm-hmm.
So what do? You're gonna have a 3-4 defense. You go out and you get the best 3-4 nose in the draft and the Lee McNeil in the 3rd round. You plug him right in there. Now, the Levi on Wuzurike pick was a little different. And I love him as a defensive tackle. I thought he was the 2nd, maybe 3rd best D tackle in the draft, but he's more of a 4-3 D tackle than he is a 3-4 edge. So they plan on playing him at 6'2", 290 at 3-4 edge. He doesn't have that prototypical height, that prototypical arm length or whatever, the athleticism. But I mean, he's very, very disruptive. As soon as he got healthy, over the past few weeks, he got in the preseason game and he started wreaking havoc.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for them right now, they're taking it one draft at a time. Even Barnes, the linebacker out of Purdue that they got. They
Mm-hmm.
got a lot of there's most importantly for this team and this regime, they need to start hitting on some guys late.
Yeah.
That's the
No,
key. You can't just hit on the guy in the first round and then blow second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth round picks. And that's pretty much what Bob Quinn was famous for.
hmm
He would blow the entire draft.
yeah, I agree. So how long do you think it'll take for you guys to, at least be 500 or competitive, overall?
Shit, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. And like honestly, because I don't understand the golf situation long term
No.
because he's their guy.
hmm
And
Yeah.
it kind of creeps me out. Like I love everything Brad Holmes did except for the go. I mean, I understand we got the picks. We got two extra first round picks over the next couple years. You picked up a third round pick back in April's draft, which you turned into Ifeatu Melifonwu, the cornerback from Syracuse.
hmm
But I'm worried that he really believes golf is the answer.
The, the answer, the future.
Yes, because you passed on Fields.
Yeah.
And that's something that could really come back to get you fired at a later date. Like if the Bears, and I keep telling people this, if the Bears have success, I don't care if the Bears win 5 games this season, 6 games. If the Bears look good offensively and Fields gives them juice and Fields gives that offense some momentum, basically a shot of orange juice. If Fields can get things going for the Bears, and we're stuck here with a cloud of dust,
hmm
with Goff throwing dig routes to Amon-Ra St. Brown on 3rd and 15.
Throwing 20 plus interceptions. I
I
mean, the
don't think
guy.
he'll throw that much
I,
though.
I mean, he. If you look at his stats over his career, he throws a pretty decent amount of interceptions. He just played on a good team.
Yeah,
As a person, as a player, like good for him for getting another chance. It just doesn't make sense for your team to roll with him, though. I totally agree.
yeah. I mean, I like the moves they made in the front seven a lot. We
hmm
got some guys that can play. Deshaun Hand. When Deshaun Hand is healthy and on the field, well, you're a Bears fan. When Hand is on the field, Hand can be a disruption. Problem is, Hand is never healthy.
Yeah.
So I think it's about time to cut ties with him. They may do it after the season. Bruce Hector is a guy right now. He's the third D tackle.
Yep.
Hector has played really well this preseason. So I think this draft was about establishing dominance at the line of scrimmage on the offensive line as well as the defensive line. And
So,
I think that's what we've done. We got even Romeo Okwara. They
yeah.
managed, they managed to keep him, and that was huge.
hmm
A young pass rusher at his age and the potential that he has. Now he has to follow it up because he's got a lot of money now.
Yeah.
But he's got to get those sacks. But they're getting pieces around him now. Even his little brother from Notre Dame,
hmm
who I'm sure you know about.
Oh yeah, I'm a big Notre Dame
Yeah,
fan.
yeah,
Julian.
yeah. But
Yeah.
your secondary, we I think we're going to stink. We're going to stink. Justin Col- Justin Coleman is gone. He was the most expensive slot corner in football,
hmm
but he was our best corner. So he's
You guys
gone.
brought in what? Roby Coleman though.
Yeah, but I thought, was he just hurt? Because I heard they brought him in, and then I heard the story got kind of taken down.
Hmm. I don't know. I saw something that you guys brought him in, so I thought it was an
Yep,
interesting
yep,
move.
yep. They did. They have him fourth right now on the depth chart. That's why, because he's not listed.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. So, I mean, you're a realist. What would make you happy after this season? Like once the season's done, like what do you want to see from the Lions?
Effort, heart, competitiveness, not a bunch of dumbass penalties.
Okay.
Um, I don't want to see coaches who don't understand the rule book. I want coaches who understand how to use their timeouts. I want stability. That's what I
hmm
want. When you look at a team, for instance, say the 49ers, you know exactly what the 49ers is from upstairs down to the coaches.
Yeah.
Shanahan runs everything. They know what their scheme is. They know what their philosophy is. And they play like a well-oiled machine when they are healthy.
hmm
Well, even when they're not healthy, we got a perfect glimpse of what a great coach is.
Yeah.
Last season, the
They knocked the
49ers,
Cardinals right out.
True. The 49ers beat up all last season, but they were still in a plenty of 20 to 17 games, 16-14. They were still giving teams pretty much all they can handle because that is an excellently coached team. So, I want to see Dan Campbell's fingerprints all over this team. What those fingerprints are, we don't know. It's still up in the air whether or not he's really going to be the X's and O's guy. We expect Anthony Lynn to do majority of that.
Right.
So
is that too much to ask for from your team? I mean, I don't think so.
We're young, and want to look at it for what it is. Okay, what do we have good, Isaac? I say this: we have a solid young offensive line. We have a top 5, top 3 center in the league. He's the highest paid center in the league. We have a solid, maybe top 5, top 10 left tackle in Taylor Decker. We have a guy who we spent the 7th overall pick on in Penei Sewell, who everyone feels is going to potentially put on a gold jacket one day. So that's it. And they're all under 26 years old.
It starts in the trenches.
Right, so then you go to the defensive line. If Aleem McNeil and guys like Levi and Wuzurike turned out to be good finds, Melifonwu, Amani Warrior is a guy. He's a holdover from the previous regime. He's probably going to be gone after this season. Okuda's a guy who, if Okuda goes back out and has another rough season, who knows?
Yeah,
who knows? But I think things are looking bad for us. Things looking bad. I see 5 wins.
5 wins?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I don't totally disagree with that.
Oh, no. You were going to go lower? 3?
4, 5, yeah, whatever. That's fine.
Who wins on Thanksgiving?
Oh, we play you again, don't we?
I believe so, yeah.
Man, you guys just... I don't know why. We always just play like crap against you guys. Even in that 12-4 season a couple years ago.
Too.
Yeah. It's so weird. I mean, you guys beat us last year in one of the games. Nagy had one of his worst coaching performances ever. Man, when's the last time you guys won on Thanksgiving? When Rodgers was hurt? Was that on Thanksgiving?
I don't even want to lie. I can't even remember the last time we won on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, well. All right, I'll go Bears.
Oh, that's awful. It's awful. It's awful. But speaking of the Bears.
Oh, here we go.
I'm going to start off, man. Start off talking about the Bears.
Let me hear it.
Okay, so listen. I like Cole Kmet. I like Allen Robinson.
Hold on. That's how you start out? I like Cole Kmet. That's it.
I do, man.
I think of the Chicago Bears. I like Cole Kmet. I mean,
you don't like him?
Oh no, I'm a Notre Dame fan too. I mean, I love Cole, but it's just funny that I love anyone that I talk to. That's not where they go to first. It's just funny. But keep going.
First and foremost, Adam Redmond. Jesus. You guys have a sneaky good roster, man. When you look at the offensive line, James Daniels and Elijah Wilkinson, I hate the running back position, you guys. Hate it.
What?
Hate it.
You hate it? Wow.
Damian Williams?
My problem is the Bears never have any freaking depth. I mean, Cohen's always there, and I mean, he's not a running back. He's a gadget back that is a pass catcher. I'm just surprised that we went out and got a Damian Williams and drafted a Khalil Herbert. I'm shocked. But keep going. You hate it. David Montgomery sucks, according to you. Go ahead.
And Montgomery is okay, man. Okay. But Marquise Goodwin. Now, this is interesting. What are you hearing about him so far?
Honestly, I'm not hearing a lot, and that's why I'm not. I don't know. I expected a big offseason from him. I expected a lot of chatter about him, and the fact that I'm not hearing a lot about him kind of worries me. Everyone's locking him in as the wide receiver 3 on this team, but I'm not hearing that he's doing great in practice. I'm not hearing that he's being a leader in that wide receiver room. Obviously we know he's got blazing speed, and I'm
Hell
happy
yeah.
that we actually have some speed at the receiver positions. You know, him and Demir Bird and drafting Daz Newsome to go along with Mooney. I'm shocked that we have some speed on our team, and I love it. But like I said, why am I not hearing anything about Goodwin? That scares me.
Yeah, I immediately thought when you guys brought him over, boom, deep
Mm-hmm.
threat for Fields.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, man, from Allen Robinson, Chris Lacey can be productive sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Daz
I don't
Newsome.
think Lacey makes the roster.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Mooney, Demir Bird. I see you guys keeping what, 1, 2, 3. You guys
We
may keep what, 6 receivers.
Yeah, we like doing that. And so, I mean, Robinson, Mooney, Goodwin, and Bird, I think, are the locks. Each and every season, we hear good things about Riley Ridley. And then when it comes to the regular season, nothing happens. They don't ever play him, they don't even dress him. And you just keep
Yeah,
hearing that he's doing great in practice, but something's going on. But I could see him staying and then maybe Daz on that roster. Ever since, the fighting stuff with the Saints, they've had bad taste in their mouth about Javon Wims, so I think he's gone. But Rodney Adams has played very well this preseason. I didn't really know a lot about him, but he's making a name for himself, and if he doesn't make the roster, I think someone grabs him.
yeah, definitely. What's the deal with y'all defense, man? Like even the secondary, man, is Jalen Johnson potential stud.
Maybe, yeah.
Potential.
Mm-hmm.
DeAndre Houston Carson, he's got some talent.
He is a goofy player. He doesn't get a lot of snaps, but when he comes in, I mean, he forces turnovers. And
Yeah,
then I mean, as a fan, I'm like, get this guy in there over to Sean Gibson, but something's going on to where he's not practicing well. He's a great special teams player, but man, there was a couple times last year where he had the game sealing interception in like
yeah,
12 snaps played. Man, our secondary is weak. It's weak.
yeah.
I mean, Jalen Johnson, you said potential, maybe. We have Artie Burns, former first rounder from the
Woo!
Steelers in 2016, never lived up to the hype. We got Desmond Trufant from you guys in Detroit. His Atlanta days are.
No. Yeah, we got him from Atlanta,
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
and
He
they
went
got
there
him from
after.
Seattle.
Yeah, yeah. No one wants him, and we
Nobody.
let Kyle Fuller go just like out of nowhere. I mean, he was pretty iffy last season. He's a guy that really just has a knack at creating turnovers, and he's not really, the best coverage corner. But I was sad to see him go. And Eddie Jackson, I mean, a couple years ago looked like a star, and he was not good at all last year. But they had him playing strong safety, so they're going to switch him back to free. So I think that'll help him out. They brought back Gibson, Sean Gibson. They believe in Kendall Vildor, a late round draft pick last year. There's just a lot of uncertainty right now. I really like the Thomas Graham Jr. Draft selection. He really slipped after opting out of last season from Oregon. He could be a guy that I could see, manning up that nickel spot because we got rid of Buster Screen, thank God. Oh man, I've never seen a guy miss more tackles than that man. But yeah, the secondary is definitely the worst part of that defense right now. I'm very confident in the front seven, though. I mean, I'll let you talk before I just go on and on about them. Go ahead.
I don't have much to say about you guys, man. Well, you know what? Christian Jones, who you got from us. Christian Jones he can be productive.
Yeah.
He can.
The thing is he started with us.
Yeah.
As an undrafted middle linebacker out of Florida State, I believe. He was a starter for us when we had that 3-year run of just being awful on defense and actually having somewhat of a decent offense. And now it's reversed. But adding Christian Jones as a backup middle linebacker, I think is pretty freaking cool, man. Like, I'm excited about it because the past couple of seasons we've had Danny Trevathan go down or Roquan Smith go down for an extended period of time, and then whoever comes in, it's just awful. Like Josh Woods last year. I mean, he looked slow. He didn't look like he was an NFL player. They like that Joel Ayagabunwe. I can't even say his last name. He's this fast guy. He's not very smart when he's on the field. So I like Roquan. I'm not so high on Danny, but I mean, just having a Christian Jones back there behind him, and then even Alec Ogletree, a veteran who has
Yeah,
had success in his career. I just like the depth back there. If we can find a pass rusher on the opposite side of Khalil Mack, that'd be nice. I mean, we gave Robert Quinn that huge contract, and he ended up with 2 sacks last season. Leonard Floyd did nothing with us, and then he had over 10 sacks last year with the Rams. But again, we added depth there. Bringing over Atachu from Denver was solid. Khalil Mack recruited him over. We picked up in my opinion, one of the best undrafted rookies in Charles Snowden. Maybe he's not a 53-man roster player right away, but he's a guy that you can plug in on that practice squad that has decent pass rushing abilities. And I really like the defensive line. We finally figured it out with Akeem. There was talks that he wanted to be traded. We allowed him to seek a trade, and now he wants to retire as a Bear. And he's one of my favorite players on this team. Just his personality, his motor. I mean, he gets a lot of penalties, but he has heart, and I like that. And then we bring back Eddie Goldman, who didn't play last season. Quietly, one of the better nose tackles in the league the last time we saw him. A young Belial Nichols out on the end position, who has just gotten better and better throughout his first couple seasons. And then the depth behind them as well. And Angelo Blackson, a guy who had over 5 sacks last season with Arizona, and Mario Edwards, re-signing him, a guy that, can go in there and make some plays as well.
All right, so let's get down to it. How many wins? And don't be a homer.
No, I'm not.
Be a homer.
Dude, you should know by now. I'm probably more down on the Bears than anyone. Around 500.
Oh, okay.
Around 500. I mean, I could see them.
Yeah.
I think their ceiling is second place in the division with 10 wins. And I think their floor is all the way down to 5 wins. I mean, when this team crumbled last season, they lost 6 games in a row. There's something going on in that front office that's not right. I mean, we're not hearing much about it. I think Matt Nagy is one of the worst play callers I've ever seen. You saw it in that Lions game, man. I remember you sending out in the group chat, fire Nagy, and if it wasn't for the improvement of Mitchell Trubisky down the stretch, the defense playing better, kind of utilizing Trubisky in a way of making it into the playoffs and the Cardinals just totally collapsing, Nagy wouldn't have a job. And now drafting Justin Fields is probably going to save his job for at least one more season, no matter what happens this year.
See what I'm saying? Fields could be here in Detroit.
Yeah.
Saving Dan Campbell's job.
Yeah.
So
it's true. I have no issue with Dalton starting as the starting quarterback week 1 because we're playing the Rams. And then I'd like to see Fields go in there right after that. Can't start a guy against the Rams and Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald.
I say Dalton starts week 1.
Yep.
Fields comes in at halftime to replace an ineffective Dalton.
I won't be surprised.
I think Nagy at least gives him that respect. He gives him one half of starting.
That Nagy just he's holding back as hard as he can because he was there when they had Mahomes serving as Alex Smith's backup in Kansas City, and he wants to do the same thing. Yeah. He wants to do it right. But Justin Fields is undoubtedly the better quarterback right now already than Andy Dalton. And we've seen it in just the little flashes in preseason so far.
Exactly. All right, so moving on to that final team. The team that's been kicking everybody ass the past 30 years. Especially me and you. That's right, I'm going to include you in the ass whoopings. So, the Bears...
They probably whoop on us more than they whoop on you.
Well, your losses to the Packers are more heartbreaking because they tend to come last game of the season, division on the line.
Yeah, and how many times do we win those big games? Never. When you think,
wait a minute, didn't Cutler come through one year?
Cutler came through. It was like week 1 of the season. We surprised the Packers. They had a late game fumble that stayed in bounds somehow. It looked like it was gonna bounce out to the sideline. Urlacher snatched it up. We kicked a field goal. We won the game. That's also the same season that the Packers needed to win to get into the playoffs. We rested our players. We allowed them to get in, and what did they do? They met us in the NFC freaking championship game, and they beat us. Cutler sat out like a little wimp he is, and they won the Super Bowl all in the same year.
Well, with all that being said, Aaron Rodgers is back for yet another season, even grayer than ever.
That's an automatic 2 losses for both of us.
Nah, no, well, not this team, not this Lion team. You may be right.
Yeah.
You may be right, but I don't know. Like honestly, I could see this division going one of 3 different ways. Like if the Packers have an injury to him, we could see the Bears win that division, or even the Vikings for that matter. But things are so nutty right now in Minnesota, we really don't know.
Yeah.
But if you look at the Packers right now, okay, they're pretty much the same team they were from last year.
Yeah.
You look at the skill positions with Marquez Valdez-Scantling. They brought back Randall Cobb. You still got Equanimeous St. Brown. You drafted Amari Rodgers out of Syracuse.
Funches.
Funches, Alan Lazard. So the whole gang is back right now for Aaron Rodgers to sling the ball around to. I think Robert Tonyan was a pretty big bright spot for them last season.
Yeah.
Billy Turner at right tackle. So they got some guys going on. Josh Myers, the center out of Ohio State, was a pretty solid pick. Bakhtiari's healthy. So I don't think the offense is a problem. We never believe the offense is going to be a problem in Green Bay.
Yeah.
Aaron Jones is back.
Yeah. If anything, the offensive line will take a step back with Lindsey gone, Myers plugging in, Bakhtiari missing probably half the season from that ACL tear that happened late in last season. But yeah, you're right. I mean, there's no issues on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah. Now, defensively, I think they did something. They committed a very, very well. Jury's still out. Only time will tell if the Eric Stokes pick was a bad pick. But it was sort of a reach to me.
Real quick.
Yeah.
Okay, you're saying it's a reach. I think corner was the way to go, in my opinion. I just didn't see him as the next corner. Who would you have picked there?
Over Stokes?
Yeah. Did you have his teammate, Tyson Campbell? Okay. I would agree with Samuel. I would 100% agree with Samuel. But did you like Campbell better?
I like Campbell overall better than Stokes. I thought Stokes was a specimen. I think pretty much they fell in love with Stokes the same way they fell in love with Kevin King a few years ago.
Yeah.
The tall, athletic guy, the specimen. Stokes, if Stokes can pan out, if someone can channel all of that and get him under control, get him more disciplined with his feet, stop him from opening the gate so damn quick every time he comes out of his back pedal. Having a corner that's 6'1", 200 pounds that can run damn near a 4.1, it can jump 40 inches, that's very, very valuable. So
yeah, I agree.
Yeah. But I mean, if it doesn't work out, you're looking at what? Jair Alexander and everybody else getting picked on in that secondary.
And they brought back Kevin King to keep getting picked on.
Exactly. Although Stokes may wind up starting over King.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and that's the plan, of course. What do you think of their safeties, though?
Amos, one of the best in the league right now. Well, he had a really good season last season. I'll say that.
Yeah, that son of a gun, he could have went anywhere, and he went there.
Yeah.
Gosh, I loved him in Chicago. We just couldn't pay him and Eddie. But
Green Bay's solid at safety. I think Darnell Savage is a budding star too.
I agree.
Safety and cornerback one, they're good. They're good. Now you look at the front seven. Kenny Clark, hell of a player. Can he stay healthy? Those DNs though. Like, what kind of pressure can they get? Any pressure with those DNs out of that 3-4? Because it didn't work last season, and they lost 2 starting linebackers, and they're starting Chris Barnes, who also had a cup of coffee here. So it's like you're starting Chris Barnes at one of the inside linebackers. Devondre Campbell at the other with Zadarius. So it's pretty much Preston and Zadarius are going to be the rushers.
Yeah. And they've had an issue for some time now, really, at the inside linebacker spot. Blake Martinez was a tackle machine, but I mean, outside of him, I can't think of a good middle linebacker that they've had since AJ Hawk.
True. Why not try out Rashawn Gary? He's so athletic. He can do every damn thing except anything great.
Yeah.
So,
and they paid Preston Smith a lot of money, and really, he just. I mean, I watched him a lot last year, and he doesn't do enough for me to earn that top dollar money like he's getting.
So let me ask you this: what would you do with Rashawn Gary? I mean, he's 6'5", 260, 270-ish, getting up there. What would you really do with him? Because at that size, you would think maybe...
Wouldn't you throw him on the DN?
Yeah, but it seems like there's just something missing. There's always been just something missing with Rashawn Gary, and that goes all the way back to him being here at Michigan. Like, he's too physically gifted to be as non-productive as he is. And the idea was that Jim Harbaugh would unlock him at Michigan. Didn't happen at Michigan. And the idea was that, well, we'll get him in Green Bay into our system, and we'll figure out what to do with him. What, in your estimation, what would you do with Rashawn Gary?
I mean, I wouldn't put him in there as like the every down starter, but I mean, just get him reps. I mean, that defense isn't, like we said, it's not great right now. Their offense is stout, so you can have somewhat of a setback from that defense. So you might as well, if I was them, I would plug him in at both positions, the end and linebacker position. Just figure out like what his niche is, and then keep him there. You know, whatever he's really shining in right away, just keep him there, because you said he's a physical specimen. He's got all the tools to be great, and he's not productive enough, but you can't just not play the guy, though. It's kind of one of those situations.
True, because, you look at, if you want to free up Kenny Clark a little more, you could always, on a couple plays, you could plug Gary in at 3-4 nose to eat up a little bit. If the center or the guard, I mean, not necessarily the center, but that's if the guard really feels like he has to cheat over and help on Gary. He may not feel like he have to cheat on Gary. He may go out to the tackle and just choose to double team Clark if that's the case. But you got to figure out a way to move him around and get him more productive.
Yeah.
You spend a first round pick on him. Like, look what they've done with their first round picks the past 3 years. Like, what are you getting out of these first round picks?
I mean, according to the Packers, you're getting depth pieces in the first round.
Depth in the first round. Okay,
yeah.
There we go. There we go. So what do you think about this team, man?
I don't think they're going to be as good as last season, just because of all the drama. I could see Rodgers, not being the MVP of the whole regular season again, but I think he'll be solid. I mean, there is that concern maybe that he's getting up there in age, and the only thing that I have concerns about is that offensive line more towards the beginning of the season. So I can see them getting off to a slower start, and I mean, I still think they're the kings of the NFC North, but I could see this team winning the NFC North with 11, 12 wins. I don't think they're going to be as dominant as last season. I don't think they're a team that's going to go to the NFC Championship game or push for a Super Bowl title. I think there's going to be some regression. It is going to be Aaron Rodgers' last season more than likely, and I just don't see it being his last season on top,
Yeah. I think the offense is still ran by Aaron. The pieces are still there. All those ancillary pieces are still there. A.J. Dillon is a year smarter, a year more experienced. Aaron Jones turned out to be a lifesaver for him, a stud. Jones is actually his Terrell Davis. I'll say that.
Okay.
Towards the end of his career. I'm worried about the offensive line just like you. I'm worried about the defensive line. I'm worried about the fact that I don't think they'll be able to stop the run consistently. I don't think they'll be able to get after the quarterback enough.
Right.
I like the secondary. I think you're going to struggle throwing the football on Green Bay.
Yeah.
But as far as those tangible things, the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball, I think those were some issues. And a guy like Abe could always come on here and set me straight about how great Green Bay's offensive
Oh
line
yeah.
was last year.
Yeah.
But moving forward this year, I think they're going to struggle at the line of scrimmage. I think they're going to put up points. Aaron's going to put up points. That's what Aaron does.
Right.
But I think they're going to find themselves in a lot of shootouts. And when you find yourself in a lot of shootouts, you leave your quarterback exposed to hits. So
Yep.
this team is one Aaron Rodgers hit away from fighting for a playoff spot. Probably fighting for that final playoff spot in the NFC.
Yeah, and I mean the 2 times that he has went down, the one time they didn't make the playoffs, and the other they came back and they beat the Bears in week 17 and found themselves back in the playoffs. So I agree, one hit away from being a fringe playoff team for sure. Whoa.
I'm back.
I see 2 of you.
You do? More the knowledge. Why I don't know. Closing out on Green Bay didn't do much in my estimation. They stayed the same. We can say the same thing pretty much about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but we think the Bucs are a better overall football team than Green Bay currently is. I think Green Bay is kind of arrogantly just rolling the ball back out there on the court saying, come on, let's go play. And this is a winner take all year for them. We had this discussion with Abe in a group chat about Green Bay. Like, he doesn't think it's Super Bowl or bust for them. It is. Like, you guys got to within one game and lost to one of his rivals in the NFC Championship. Like, you need to get there and win. Because if you don't get there this season, whether you get there or not, Aaron's gone.
It's just
I
crazy.
seriously don't believe Aaron is back next season with Green Bay.
No, neither do I. It's just crazy to see what Rodgers been on the team 16 years now, and they've won 1 Super Bowl. I mean, they should have 3 at least.
Been to 1. They should have at least made 3. I feel.
Yeah, exactly, because they just went to the 1. They're 1-0 in the Super Bowl games with Rodgers.
Yeah.
So, I agree. In a couple of years, I mean, this team could be towards the bottom. It's Super Bowl or bust, like you said. And I honestly believe this is Aaron Rodgers' last season as a Green Bay Packer.
Cool. So cool. If this is last season, it's last season. But
let's go.
I'm going to give him healthy Aaron Rodgers. I'll give that team with that offense. I'll give him 11 wins. I think the NFC is going to be way tougher than people are leading on to, though. I think Carolina's going to be better. I think the New Orleans Saints. Sean Payton knows how to win regular season games if he don't know how to do any damn thing else. Yeah. That offensive line is still there in New Orleans. That running game is still there, and they know how to win games during the regular season. So Tampa's there. Who else in the NFC? Like, there's teams in the NFC that can jump up and bite the entire NFC West.
That's what I was about to say. The entire division of the NFC West is. I mean, you can't look past any of those teams.
Yeah, so it's not going to be a cakewalk. It's not going to be a cakewalk at all for Green Bay, but we'll see. We will see soon. But so that'll close things out for episode 2 of Goats and Rings. I want to thank everyone who joined us tonight. All 2 of you. I see you. But I appreciate the love. We will be back next week with a brand new episode of Goats and Rings. Till then, peace. I'm out.